Welcome back to Sky Blues Walk. It's episode 26, and our focus this week is: does Frank Lampard deserve more credit than what he gets from the footballing community? My gaffer, I effing love Frank Lampard. The love for him on Twitter this week has been immense, not just from Coventry fans, from Chelsea and Everton as well. We're also talking about what do we learn from the Watford game. The transfer window's closing soon. Is the Swansea captain about to join the Sky Blues? And we're asking this lot for the worst ever Coventry City defenders to make up our worst ever Coventry City team. Welcome back, Scott, Jay, and Tom, and welcome back, you. Thank you very much for watching. If you can help us grow, that would be massively appreciated. Drop us a subscribe there, especially if you're a Frank Lampard fan. Right then, Scott, are you in love with Frank Lampard?
I think I said a couple of weeks ago, you can't help but like the man. I do like him. I liked him as a player, I like him as a person. I like what he seems to be doing to the team, setting us up well. Difficult to beat, and even at the end of the game at the weekend, he even took part in the cheering at the end. I think he said the other week he was a bit shy, but Lampard and Torp and Milan did it as usual because Torp scored a couple of times. Frank came over about 30 seconds later and did the same. But yeah, I like him. I've liked him from day one. I just don't want everybody to go too far to the hooray bit, just in case. But you can't knock him for what he's done. I think he's been brilliant so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom, is he misunderstood as a football manager? I mean, obviously he's got lots of memes that people post about him, and he did a decent job at Chelsea. Don't forget he kept my team up, Everton. I'll never forget that, being on the pitch at Crystal Palace and being stood on the dugout. So does he get the credit he deserves?
I don't think he does. I think, with Chelsea, a transfer embargo, he got them Champions League. He obviously kept Everton up, Derby playoff final. I don't really get why he's so hated. I mean, he's come in. It was a bit of a rocky start. It was always going to be, because even when Robbins was here, it was pretty shocking so far. But he seems to have turned it around recently really, really well. I don't want to get too, as Scott said, we're going to win the playoffs, but it's nice to think of it, really. But he's done really well so far, and you can tell the players, they just want to play for the club and play for the manager now. And no disrespect to Robbins, it didn't look like that at the start. So they really want to go for it now. And it's really nice to see it. We're on the up at the moment, and it's so positive. I remember sitting here weeks ago just feeling depressed watching the club. Now I'm uplifted, and it's really good. I'm really happy. But I do think he's really misunderstood as a manager. And as a person, he's amazing. I love him to bits. I love the man, as everyone else does.
Yeah, absolutely. Graham says he's a good manager. Gets unnecessary stick, in my opinion. Jay, talk to us about tactically, though. Is he better than Robbins tactically?
Well, I would say yes, personally. I think over the last couple of weeks, his tactics have been spot on per game. You have to remember he's lost Ephraim Mason-Clark, Haji Wright, Ben Sheaf. We've got a thin squad anyway. So he's had to deal with quite a lot there. So he's had to change formation to 3 or 5 at the back, however you want to see it. And the thing I'm really impressed with, which was absolutely love Mark Robbins, but one thing I had a gripe with him was his in-game management. Sometimes he makes subs too late, or he didn't react to change that his opponent did. So what I found with Frank Lampard is, as soon as there's a change from the opposition, he'll tweak something himself. He'll change formation, or he'll do something within the games. So I think one thing I'm really, really impressed with him about, and the fact that he manages games quite well. He's learning on the job of who can trust and who can't in certain situations, which obviously the Norwich game where we gave up obviously a winning position and conceded. But then again, a game like Bristol, we managed that game really, really well. The game against Blackburn, I thought we played brilliantly, bar the first sort of 30 minutes, I think, and managed that really well, especially when they made 4 changes. They came back into it for a couple of minutes, and then he made some subs and tweaked it as well. So that's one thing I'm massively, massively impressed with Frank Lampard, is his in-game management of the team.
Okay. Right, Scott, look me in the eyes and give me a truthful answer to this. Have you looked at that league table and thought...
I've looked at it many times.
Have you looked at the league table and gone, we're only 6 points off the playoffs in your head yet?
Yes. I have looked at the league table. I looked at on Saturday to see we've gone up to 13th, and I think we moved up to 12th. You do always count, but I'm not counting any chickens, Mark. It's just, the old cliche, I guess, of see how we go game on game. We've got a huge game.
It's the
You,
Cov
James
way. We'll
Hatton.
get playoffs.
You know, I've stopped looking at the league table. I was 90th minute against Norwich. I was looking at the table. Oh, we beat this. We're only this many points away from win the next game. So since then, I've refused to start looking at the table apart from
I
one
look at it every
maybe.
day.
It does my head. As Scott said, I'm sort of a one game at a time kind of man at the moment. It's potentially on, but at the same time, it's going to be pretty hard as well.
Yeah, it'd be nice to dream, but it can come crumbling down.
Right. Well, I clearly asked the wrong person. Let me talk to Mr. Positivity down there in the left corner. Tom, you're going to sweep the playoffs, aren't you? Again, one team always does it. You're going to get there.
We just seem to have a way with it, really. I mean, look at 2 seasons ago. I think I saw a comparison on Twitter the other day. We were roughly in the same position, and we got us to the playoff final. Thing is, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but you know, that young energy in me, how can't I, as they say. But I'm really, really hoping we do it. I'd love another Wembley trip, but I think it's a tough run of fixtures. I mean, we don't ever beat Swansea. Then we've got Leeds. We've got some really hard games coming up. QPR are in good form, so try not to get too ahead of ourselves. But it's really nice to dream at the moment. I do look at that league table every day and just think, imagine if we do it.
Okay. Before we get to the Swansea game, of course, the transfer window will be closing short. Let's have a look at how we've done so far. This was up to date. Well, it's up to date as of, I think, last week, so this might not be completely accurate. But, Jay, why is it looking so empty?
Good question. Good question, Mark. Again, when Robbins was sacked, one of the reasons I was sort of not on board with the sacking, but I sort of understood that sacking is because they said they wanted to plan everything out. I think got sacked at the end of November, around mid-November, I think it was. So they sort of planned everything out, assessed the squad, etc. I presumed sort of early January we'll be sort of making some moves, but obviously that hasn't been the case at all. The only sort of real plausible sort of rumour that we were almost on the cusp of completing was Rabbi Matondo, which I wasn't massively keen on just because of his injury record, and the Rangers fans absolutely hated him by the sounds of it on Twitter. But there hadn't been a lot of activity at all, really. Doug King liked to keep everything in-house as well. There's not a lot of rumours flying about, but obviously some very positive news potentially about Jeffrey Schlupp. We're just apparently the wages are sort of being discussed about who's paying what, etc. on a loan, and obviously Mr. Grimes from Swansea, who I absolutely loved. I've raved about this guy for years. He's one of those players that you think, I would love him, but he'll never come to Cov. He's too good of a player to come to Coventry. And all of a sudden today, I saw something on Twitter, and I'm like, could it happen? Could it happen? So potentially that's sort of coming along. So again, I'm not too concerned. I would have liked somebody in a bit earlier because we are a bit thin, short of numbers. But look, we've got a week. The window ends on Monday, so there's still time to get deals done, and I am keeping everything crossed right now.
This is what friend of the show Ben said about the Grimes deal. I think the Grimes deal is still going to be a tricky one to get over the line. The ball is in Swansea's court. He only signed a contract last year. Doug won't want to pay due to his age, Scott. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more disappointment for the SBO when it comes to getting a central midfielder in. We just can't get them over the line. Do you agree with Ben, Scott?
Yeah, I think so. I think Doug sort of came out with the stance that he wanted younger players, he wanted permanent players, having had a few loan players in the past, and now I think he's finally, whether he's listening to somebody or whether he's admitting that things need to change. And if he's looking at Matty Grimes, I think he's 29. I think Alan Brown's been mentioned in the past, probably more by the fans than anybody else, but yeah, he's a great player. He always plays well against us, from what I can remember. Always done well against us, and looks the pick of the bunch. Yeah, I think if he's going to relent, then they're the kind of players that you want. He's got that experience. He's in the middle of the park. I think we've spoken about having an experienced central defender. So with him and Grimes in the middle, whoever that experienced defender may be, if we get one, we might have to look at an older age again. The spine of the team's looking good if we can do that. But yeah, I think you've got to look around and look at the right player for the right position, regardless, to be honest.
Okay. Swansea Twitter was in meltdown this evening because there was rumours he actually had handed a transfer request into Swansea. So goodness me, and I won't look forward to talking to our Swansea fans a little bit later on there. Tom, who else do you think what else positions do you need before before Grimes does not sign?
I mean, I would have said right back, but obviously we've got Burrows back now for backup. So obviously that's if Milan doesn't go anywhere, which I don't think he will, to be honest. I think another left. I don't really think another left back at the moment. I think Bidwell's playing pretty solid. I think that central midfielder role is the most crucial thing, but we just need to get it over the line. As Ben said, it's going to be tricky, but if we get a player like Matt Grimes in, then the sky's the limit for us for the rest of the season, in my opinion. That is the most important role. It's a big hole we need to fill. That's the most important one. I can't really think anywhere else is a major priority at the moment, I would say.
Yeah.
Right, cheers for that, Tom. Just before we move on, let's bring in a Swansea fan while we've got one available to us to get his view on what's likely to happen. Welcome, James, from obviously where Swans walk. We've been discussing Grimes on here. What's your view on the latest?
From my understanding of it, is he's actually asked to leave us. It's sort of come out of nowhere. Can't really blame him, if I'm being honest. I mean, Coventry is a more attractive prospect than us at the moment. We're not looking at challenging the top six. They can clearly offer more wages, but the way in which he's done this, allegedly, he's basically forced him through the move to go there. So yeah, it's a massive loss for us. But for me, I don't think he's guaranteed to start in these lads' midfield. I mean, they've got Torp and they've got I've lost my train of thought, but I don't think he's going to walk into your side, lads. I think he's going to have to earn his spot there, but you've got a hell of a player on your hands if the deal does go through.
Is there any chance, James, that he makes his debut against Swansea this weekend?
Knowing our luck, yeah. And there is there's the curse of ex-Swansea players. They always score against us. So you've seen this script before. You know how it ends, lads. And yeah. The sound of things, I think it could be done and dusted before the weekend.
Madness. Right, James, cheers for that little cameo. We appreciate you coming on as much as it might hurt and pain you. These boys will see you on Saturday at the .com. Cheers, mate. There you are. Swansea fan not very happy with Coventry. You've upset both Sheffield clubs this season, and now
Everyone
you've
hates
upset,
us this season.
you've upset half of Wales.
That was like meeting your new girlfriend's ex-boyfriend. That was a bit awkward.
The other half.
Okay. Right, before we leave you then, this week we have been filling in the worst ever Coventry 11, so we are up to defenders. We've done goalkeepers and strikers. So let us know in the comments, and you've done very well on this last week. You were filling up on comments with terrible strikers, so thank you very much for that. So at the backline, now is it just a bit of fun? I know we had someone saying kind of, these people, the players have still got to, make money and so on. We're not calling them out for being terrible people. We're just calling them out for being not the best footballers. So, Jay, can you kick this off with a name?
Yeah, myself, Tom and Scott were actually talking about this earlier. It's a bit tricky to do worst players. One player that sort of jumped out at me at left back was Junior Brown. He played for several years ago, but I was just never convinced by him. He wasn't that fantastic going forward, wasn't fantastic at defending. I wasn't quite sure what he did to manage it in the team. But yeah, so I personally think left back I would go Junior Brown is my shout for that position. And I know Tom had somebody for right back, so I'll pass over to him.
Tom?
For right back for me, I've gone for Julian Da Costa. He was with us. Oh, what season was it? I think it was the season before the playoff final season. I'm pretty sure the first season back at the CBS. He was pretty shocking. Every time he'd come on the pitch, there was nothing there. He couldn't defend. He couldn't pass. He didn't go forward. He was just a shocking player. Nothing against him as a person, but as a player, yeah, he was an awful right back. So yeah, I'm going with him.
Real. Thanks, Tom. Scott, finish this off for us if you can.
Centre halves. I did pick up three, whether the guys have got them or not. Reece Brown was one that played for us. He only played about 6 games on loan. I think we might have signed him or loaned him from Man United. And he had all this potential in the world, and it just didn't work out. Obviously, he wasn't there for very long, but I think everyone was excited. He was coming from Man United, about to break into their first team, and just didn't work at all. I think he left us and went to Barnsley and Bury after that. So that was one. Andy Webster was another one we signed from Hearts. He placed 70 appearances. He wasn't very good at all. He was a complete liability on the ball from what I remember. Again, came with a bit of potential and was just terrifying everybody as soon as he got on the ball from memory. He went back to Scotland. I think he went back to St Mirren. And I've got one other. I don't know if anybody else wants to chip in, but I've got one other name. Nathan Cameron, from a long time ago, I think, probably about another 6 to 10 years ago. 48 caps over 4 years. Big athletic fella, big and strong. How do I explain this? Probably the clumsiest person I've ever seen in my life.
He was a poor man's title, the Bramble. I remember. He was massive unit. Everyone. Came up to the youth team, didn't he? I remember.
Yeah. He was huge,
and then,
big, athletic, and then
quick.
Just smashed everybody to pieces. Own players, opposition players. That split second late, crash, bang, wallop, and you just think, oh no. But I don't know if anybody's got any other centre halves, but they were the three that I picked out.
I really struggled.
It's
hard, yeah.
You've got some decent players, haven't you? We're nearly there with this as well. Next week, we're doing the worst dynamic midfield players you've ever seen. We'll put those in and then make our full team up next week. Join us, of course, for that. And we're, of course, reviewing how the Swansea game has gone and picking our January player of the month. As then we'll be FA Cup time again, won't it? And we'll be previewing that in next week as well. So join us for that. Thank you very much, you three. Thank you very much for watching. Do drop us a subscribe if you can help us grow. That massively helps us all out and puts a smile on our faces. And we'll see you in 7 days' time. Have a good week.